Thank you.
Yield back.
Thank you. The gentleman yields back. And the chair now recognizes the gentlelady from Colorado's 1st District for 5 minutes for questions.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Well, Mr. Palmer, good news. In the last Congress, we passed the Advance Act, which then Chairman Duncan and I did together, which restructured the way we regulate nuclear energy in the hopes of getting some of these energy resources. And I'm assuming, Mr. O'Connor, that you would think that would be a positive step towards getting more nuclear.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Now, continuing with you, Mr. O'Connor, I wanted to ask you about President Trump's claim that the United States is in an, quote, energy emergency. In fact, the United States is the top producer of crude oil and natural gas in the world. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And in fact, investments in clean energy, like in the Inflation Reduction Act and bipartisan infrastructure law, mean that the United States would, do those investments mean that we would no longer produce oil?
No, they don't.
And in fact, after we began making those investments, we still had a huge increase in the production of oil, didn't we?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Now, Mr. Arnold, I really want to, again, thank you for coming. It's good to see my homie here. I wanted to ask you, in your testimony, you talked about the benefits of the IRA. Can you talk for a minute about the IIJA and IRA's investment in technology like advanced nuclear, geothermal, hydrogen, and carbon capture for the workers?
Thank you for the question. And, you know, certainly are certainly in favor of all of the above approach. I think those are important options to keep on the table when we're looking about how do we keep existing workers in good paying jobs and middle class jobs, and how do we continue to provide those career opportunities for younger generations. I think, you know, in Colorado specifically, you know, one of the things I've mentioned in my written testimony is some of the challenges facing Pueblo community as they look to retire Comanche Unit 3, which is the state's largest coal-fired power plant in 2031. And so when the committee that analyzed the variable options down there, looking at what's going to provide those critical jobs and an economic engine that area depends on, what they found was the only thing that kind of came close was nuclear. And so in the short term, you know, a gas-fired power generation unit would help stabilize baseload, help provide needed tax revenue and jobs, and working towards longer-term nuclear generation as a replacement to fully kind of make that community whole. So
thank you. I'm sorry, I've got a couple more questions. That was very helpful, though. Mr. O'Connor, I want to go now back to you again. Do investments in clean energy, like in the Inflation Reduction Act and bipartisan infrastructure law, save money on energy?
Yes, they do, and you don't have to take my word for it. Last year, the then interim CEO of American Electric Power, one of the country's largest utilities, testified to the Senate that if the IRA is repealed, it would increase the cost of power and make it harder to serve increasing demand. So I think there's general consensus that it does reduce costs.
Thank you. Now, one last thing. Over the last, the shock and awe of the last 10 days, the administration has frozen billions of dollars from the IRA and the IIJA for energy development that's already been allocated to domestic producers. And I just received an email yesterday for Colorado. The Colorado Energy Office has been awarded over $500 million in funds from these programs that have been frozen for the last week and a half. These include $25 million for grid resilience, reliability, and stability, money for home energy rebates, $70 million, flexible funding for state energy offices, home energy rebates, commercial energy rebates, weatherization, energy efficiency financing, small community energy support, Mr. Arnold, workforce development, low-income solar programs, multiple programs, et cetera. Do you think, Mr. O'Connor, that freezing all of these programs is going to help us build towards American energy independence in this country?
No, I don't. And I know you asked a question about nuclear at the beginning. I would note that the Palisades nuclear power plant on the shores of Lake Michigan received a loan guarantee from the Loan Programs Office. And so if that funding is paused, it will also impede nuclear deployment
Is
as
it,
well.
is it paused to date?
My understanding is that all LPO loans are paused to date. I don't know that company's particular
Great.
circumstance.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I ask unanimous consent to put a summary of these projects from Colorado that are frozen to the tune of $500 million.
Without objection?
Thank
so
you.
ordered.